The Youth and Globalization Project of AEGEE-Europe is the 2003 Yearplan Project. It is our attempt from a student NGO point of view to provide an analysis towards this challenge that awaits us in this 21st century, globalization. And in fact, we are analyzing globalization from 5 different angles: political aspect, economic aspect, cultural aspect, the geocommunications point of view, and naturally the civil society point of view.
I think one of the major developments of the last years is a better understanding on behalf of the governments and other international organizations on the role of the civil society in changing the decision-making process. And I think it's through events like World Youth Summit on Globalization that we can provide the channel of interaction between young people and the decision-making decision makers of today. When we open the consultation process to young people, gathering views from youth side, and we are able to construct statements and have a concrete content and views on different issues.
I get deeper into the vibe. What? Chilling in the corner at the shelter all by myself, checking it out. I'm not dancing no more, but
I think that one of the very positive developments of United Nations is that it increasingly recognizes the role of not only of governments but also civil society, and we increasingly cooperate with young people. There is some interest to invite NGO representatives, including from youth organizations to all important meetings, including summits. And I was happy to hear that one of your representatives just attended the World Summit on Information Society. My organization, I represent United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, started to cooperate with the youth quite recently, but I hope that this is a good start and it's going to be a good tradition.
Respect for the elders.
We, I suppose, well, the age of those that created Generation Europe, we are actually from the private sector or a range we're a different age group. But what we've done is trying to create a communication platform which all organizations can use. Clearly we have to be a little bit selective, and I've watched carefully what AEGEE has been doing over the years, and I deeply respect your astonishing energy in view of the fact that your members in fact tend to stay for a year and then move on. I have tracked and maintained good contact with many of those people, but we would like now to look at how our platform can be helpful to AEGEE. We obviously we all have the same problem of going out to find the funding to make it all sustainable, but I think that union fait la force, as they say, and we would be very interested indeed in looking at how what we're doing can be of use to AEGEE and vice versa.
Before we adopt any sort of action plan on youth, we will have a major consultation with youth groups and identify and really try and better understand whether what we're saying is what they need. So we want to be much more responsive to their needs and aspirations rather than sort of dictating what we want to do and stopping there. So as soon as our suggestions and our thoughts are better thought through and articulated, then we will certainly hold a number of either seminars inviting you to get back to basically give us feedback, or by internet. I mean, and that's why I was in fact asking for email addresses of everyone who was here, who participated in this forum, because it's a fantastic platform for us to get comments and get feedback from. I think on the projects, as I mentioned earlier, we are now formulating. Now I gave you earlier the sort of the 3 pillars, one pillar is operations, how we can integrate youth in our projects on the ground. So that's one sort of angle we're looking at. The second angle is knowledge, how in the essay competition falls under that heading of knowledge. And the third one is advocacy. On the first one, I think in the same way that NGOs are now involved in more than 50% of our operations on the ground, again, youth can either as NGOs or as youth groups become much more active, much more present in our work on the ground, in our operational work on the ground. So I see it in these three areas. And but how precisely the specific tools that we're going to develop under these three headings is something that we still have to do some work on. We have some ideas, but we need to get the buy-in of basically our staff and our operational staff, and take it from there. But these are the three main directions in which we're taking that debate.
What I always thought that is the politicians are somewhere there on top, and we are on the ground, the grassroots level. We never know what they are doing, how do they shape their policy, which affects us. On the other hand, I know that politicians are also, they feel they are somewhere up above, and they don't know exactly what is happening on the grassroots level, what is the activities of the civil society. But coming together like civil society and governments and institutions in discussing different issues, we can match, and we with young people we can see what are the challenges facing decision makers of today. On the other hand, they can see what are our activities and what are our wishes towards the decision they are making. So by bringing together civil society and most notably young people together and allowing us to express our views on topics like globalization, will be able to empower us not only decision makers of tomorrow, but also decision makers of today.
I think that to influence policy requires a huge, concentrated, focused effort, because to influence policy you have to lobby, you have to try and use the media to highlight the issues which you feel should become policy. And I don't think that anybody really in terms of the globalization debate has influenced policy more than perhaps the demonstrators in some of the global meetings. Has policy changed? No, but I think awareness has been created, and that's almost as important, because that's the first step to changing policy. Generation Europe, sadly, rather like AEGEE, probably doesn't have enough man or woman power to focus and to do this on a sustained basis. But we think it's an extremely important issue, and we do believe that using the internet can be extraordinarily powerful.
Well, I think it's not just talking, but what is really important to recognize that youth should not be only a passive subject of our efforts. We certainly have to deal with issues like how to increase the employment of young people. Within the next 10 years we expect that there will be 1 billion of young people which should be employed. So the issue of employability is very much important. But what is also important that young people start to play more and more proactive role, that really they participate in decision-making process. Their voice should be much more heard, and therefore they are invited to our events, not only to summits but also to global level conferences. And I hope very much that young people will have the courage to express their own views, and they will be involved much more in shaping the policies, global policies, but also global governance.
It was not surprising at all that globalization as a process itself was perceived to be a positive thing for this world. And in fact, this has already been verified on the survey led earlier on. And in fact, however, then we have a bolder position paper, this final paper, where, for instance, for the political pillar, the delegates, the youth delegates attending the World Youth Summit were very much concerned with the role, with the bolder role that the international institutions need to take. And in fact, they went as far as to say, relating them to the civil society pillar, that besides us students need to be even more actively participant in the decision-making process. And this, in the end, it is also a great emphasis on the democratic principles, and principles such and the usual the human rights issue was also raised. And then we also went to see the free and fair trade. And this was actually perceived to be the best option. However, in order for globalization to work, it is very much imperative to have it extending not only towards the northern hemisphere, but going also and involving the southern hemisphere. And this is why participation from all the globe, from the northern towards the southern, from the west and the east, they all need to group together in order to make this process, which has already started, to function better. And the role of youths, and in this case the initiative taken by AEGEE-Europe and the project team of Youth and Globalization, is precisely to voice our concern. And it was very much seen that we need to actively contribute to this ongoing discussion. However, we also need to be part in the decision-making process.
I think it was a very good initiative to organize this World Youth Summit and to organize something about globalization. Given my own background in economics and globalization, I think it's a perfect chance for young people to say what they want. The thing I really liked was the fact that even though I've been to many conferences of AEGEE, which is European association, so many people from outside Europe were there, from Costa Rica, Zambia, Nigeria, Singapore, which added a lot, Australia, which added a lot to the debate. Something that you don't get when you just discuss with Europeans, because then you talk, for example, about the common agricultural policy in economics, but not about real-world issues. I think this was one of the events in which AEGEE really organized a World Youth Summit.
I think that with the Yearplan topic, Europe in the world, and as most notably with the project which were run under this Yearplan topic, like the Youth and Globalization, the Yearplan Project, and then the case study trip in Caucasus, the Palestine-Israeli project, AEGEE has proved that our horizon is not limited only to discussing European issues, but we are very confident and very we can successfully engage in discussing challenges, global challenges that affects not only Europe but also other parts of the world. What is important to notice is that in a globalized world, even a butterfly wing in Brazil can cause a storm in Europe.
I first want to thank AEGEE for the initiative they took in organizing such a very unique conference by involving other continents such as Africa and America. This is a noble effort that they have taken, and we are going to ensure that Africa too can institute such an activity with the help from AEGEE and other institutions. The idea about globalization has not fully benefited the African continents. And it is our submission that we are asking the donor communities or the multilateral institutions such as the World Bank and the IMF to see how best they can cancel the debt that Africa owes the multilateral institutions, because the current debt that Africans are owing them is directly affecting African budgets in trying to resolve the social needs of the people. And we are asking the international community, if they can try and see how best they can make accessible, affordable medical health care to African governments. And that will be imperative because it will be one of the platforms to try and resolve the poverty reduction strategy paper that is being worked on by our various governments.
I think again, youth groups, if they organize themselves in the country and from outside and create pressure and talk and demand a better future, demand a more open society, I think we can make lots of headway.